Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the third panel this morning. And it's a great pleasure to be at the conference here in Athens and to have a very distinguished panel with me to discuss RES at the forefront of energy security and energy affordability. I'm Michael Pollitt from EPRG in Cambridge. When I often start my lectures with the energy trilemma, and recent developments, of course, mean that I have to change what I say about the energy trilemma, because I used to say, well, the problem is renewables are expensive. And that's one of the issues with the energy trilemma. And I also used to say, oh, we don't really need to worry about energy security. So clearly I need to alter my my initial talk. So we've been asked to think about three different areas of questions, which my speakers are going to be talking about. Integrating renewable energy, the opportunities and the challenges. Of course, it's never been a better time for investing in renewables, as we've been hearing. But maybe there are supply chain issues with accelerating investment in renewables, which we might hear about. People are thinking, well, we need to reduce the costs of renewables and somehow get the lower costs of renewables into current electricity prices, and how should we do that? Various two-market solutions have been proposed. There's a Greek one for operating two simultaneous spot markets, one for on-demand energy and one for as available energy. And hopefully the as available energy might be cheaper than the on-demand or gas led energy. And then the other issue that we need to discuss is the relationship between energy security and renewables. So are renewables actually secure? We've had very low hydro output across Europe in the first half of the year, and that's partly contributed to higher energy prices. In 2021, we had a very low wind year across Europe, and wind output was significantly lower than the average. So there's sort of question marks about renewable reliability because the weather isn't reliable. So the capacity might be there and the capacity is available, but the actual resource isn't. And climate change itself is expected to reduce certain types of renewables output. So these are the areas that the panel has been asked to think about. And I'm very much looking forward to what they're going to say. So Eric, I'm going to turn to you first. Why don't you introduce yourself and say a few words?
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. I'm representing a company which is called Akuo Energy. So we've been developing, financing and building renewable energy assets since 15 years. And we are in Greece since 2018. With a portfolio of 1.1 gigawatts, almost ready to build. That's who we are. So after the minute of publicity, I'd like to answer to the purpose you just raised, which was the purpose of this roundtable. It's a bit frustrating because over the past years, renewable energy were qualify as alternative energy. And today, we all know with the crisis, we all realize that there is absolutely no alternative to renewable energy. That's the situation today. And to answer one very important question everybody's asking is how are we going to be solving this major crisis that we are in the middle of? I will respond to that with it's like maybe we have a recipe all around the table and in this room. And for this recipe, we need 5 major ingredients. That's not all, but if we use those 5 major ingredients, we mix it, we have many chances to solve the problem on the short, medium term. Those ingredients are hydro, wind, solar, storage, and digital. If we really want to tackle this crisis, what we need to do is to massively increase the proportion of renewable. That's the only way to make it, is to accelerate. We know the solutions since 2 decades already. Renewable energy technologies are mature. They are competitive. They are reliable. So why are we waiting for more time to finally engage and accelerate the solution? Last point I wanted to raise is you probably heard recently, a couple of days ago, a rumor saying France and Germany are not going to export anymore over the winter their energy. This is a fake news, of course, and we will export, not me, but France and Germany will export, and it's the opposite. It's absolutely the opposite things that we have to do. We need much more solidarity in Europe. We need to increase the relation, increase the grid, increase the capacity to export. Why? Because we rely on natural resources. And as you said in 2021, it was a poor year for wind in Europe, but not everywhere. It was probably one of my best years in France last year. So you see, we don't have the same quantity of energy, of natural resources at the same time in all the countries. It's a great continent, it's a big continent. But this solidarity will help us when we have a lot of wind in Denmark, a huge amount of sun in Greece. Because the sun, the solar energy, there is a little volatility. There's more volatility over the year in wind, but very few volatility in sun. And I can tell you, and I will finish by that, that I'm happy to be here because I'm in one of the country which will probably be one of the first to meet the 100% target for renewable energy. And it's Greece, simply because Greece has one of the largest natural resources potential in Europe. And I'm going to leave the mic to my friend from EDF.
Yeah, thank you, Eric, and it's good to see you. EDF is cooperating with Akuo. So I'm Pierre. I'm in charge of Europe at Edf Renewables. It represents around 3 gigawatts of installed capacity or under construction, around 1,000 people outside of France, working on the energy transition of our around a dozen of countries. So I will be happy to give a European or regional perspective to the discussion. Couple of points I would like to highlight is the first one is the importance for investor to understand the strategic vision of the states. So the European states, and Greece in particular, is setting some renewable target that is a path, that is the objective in order to reach net zero in the long run, 2050 or whatever is the objective. So this is an objective set by the state. It needs to be understandable. And then the state also needs to provide enablers in order to deploy the energy policy. So that's where the private sector comes into force. So Akuo or EDF or other companies, we are here to implement the policy, and we need to have access to the grid, to have a stable, understandable regulatory framework, and we need to have also a diversity of road to market. So in this, I welcome the initiative of the Greek Energy Ministry to renew the public scheme auction that took place a couple of weeks ago. We see also an acceleration on the corporate PPA that it's a different route to market in order to decarbonize the industry. And also there's always the opportunity to go full merchant, so no hedge on the electricity price, different risk profile that could be appealing to some companies. So there is not only one way to develop and to deliver renewable electricity, that we need to have a good cooperation between the state setting the vision and the private sector implementing the vision. The second aspect that has been touched that I want to highlight. The second aspect is an aspect of volume. So we need to accelerate. We need more renewable. The green wave or the renewable wave is already on, and it will only grow. It will only grow bigger. There is no other alternative, and I agree with you, Eric. So more wind onshore and offshore. We need more solar. Is today the most competitive cost of electricity with the lowest volatility, very attractive also to financial investor. So it could be a good partnership, very easy to finance for the banks. We need also more of storage, because as we increase the capacity of renewable that are not controllable, we need to regulate the system with storage. We are currently expecting a storage scheme in Greece, in the non-interconnected island, as well as in the mainland. And to provide solution to the different customers. I was speaking with CNI. And the last point I want to touch is the importance of diversification. So we see what happens when we don't diversify our fossil fuel sources in Europe, and we depend too much on one supplier. We want to diversify on technology. It's very important, and to diversify on technology, we need to, as I was saying, to have all technologies. It's not healthy for the system to depend only on wind or only on solar. It cannot happen. When we speak about energy security, it goes with a portfolio. The portfolio is much stronger than each part taken separately. So it's very important to have a stable mix in order to have the security and the affordability. The volatility creates increased prices, intraday volatility. The portfolio reduces the volatility, hence reduces also the prices. So that's the 3 points: the strategic vision, the volume, and the diversification on technology and initiatives are for me key to ensure the energy security and also to drive down the cost, the most affordable cost of kilowatt hour for renewable energy and for energy in general.
Hello, everybody from my side as well. I am Konstantinos Eleftheriadis. I'm a partner in Deloitte and leading the leading the energy practice of Deloitte in Greece. I would also like to thank you for being here. It's an honor. I think we are going to hear some very interesting things over the next couple of days. And I will try to keep some notes because it will be interesting to see what from the things that we're going to discuss over the next 2 days they are going to be implemented. So it would be good to see what is in 1 year time, what we are actually going to discuss again. Now, we, as Deloitte, we do not have installed capacity, but we are assisting companies in order to build their capacity. We are doing a lot of feasibility studies, a lot of valuation of this kind of projects. I can say, I could start by saying that over the last 15 years, we have, specifically for Greece, if I may add a local flavor, we have been in some difficult times. We had 10-year recession, we had 2-3 years of COVID, now we have the war. And all these have affected the main parameters that at the end of the day create a monetary term. They create whether we have big ROI, we have an NPV in order for all these projects to be implemented. And what we currently see is that we have increased prices, we have increased interest rates. However, what we see in all projects at the moment is that we have also increased market. And this is because, for example, in Greece, Greek project used to focus only in Greece. However, now they focus also on the wider Balkan region. The same applies also for Germany, for France. So it's not only the country itself, but it's the region, and it is more of the European region as we speak at the moment, and not only focusing on countries itself. And this creates room. This creates room for additional volumes. It creates room for additional revenues, for additional profitability. And this is a good thing because in order to make a project, in order to have a project, at the end of the day, you have to have positive net present value and in order for to become profitable and to become bankable. And this has also a side effect, and the side effect is a good one. It is that with increased room, we have also more alternatives. So we used to have many projects on the table. However, now we have even more. And the good thing is that having increased room over the table, on the table, now we can select more projects that they are going to be bankable, that they are going to be implemented. And the security of supply plays a significant role there because some of the projects used to be not feasible a couple of years ago, but now they are, just because the situation in Europe changed. So we can spend some more money, have lower return of investment. However, we should have the security in order to safeguard that we don't have shortages in Europe. And I would also add another point that it is important also for our people because having alternatives in renewables is something that it is what people ask. We are also a big organization. We have 2,000 people in Greece. We have more than 300,000 people at a global level. And we see all these people with an average age of 30 years old that they are asking for renewables. They are asking for green energy. They are asking for climate change. So in order to help them and attract talent, and this is an issue for all corporates in the long term, we have to invest in renewables. We have to invest in alternatives in order to make things happen and have the security that we want in Europe.
Great, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for sticking to time. Okay, let me ask you a question about how best do you think the government should be supporting renewables, or whether it needs to support renewables. So perhaps you'd like to comment on some of the suggestions that have been made for interfering in the market, like having one of the two market solution, either the Greek proposal on the two spot markets, or some of the proposals around enforcing companies to offer long-term PPAs for renewables. Eric, do you want to start?
This is not a Greek problem or situation. This is a global situation in Europe and all over the world. How the government can help? I'm sorry to say that, but it's very simple. It's very, very simple, because we are facing that since 20 years together, and it's always the same story. Everybody wants to move. To be able to move, we need to build our projects. As you said, we need to increase the proportion, the volume, the security and the independence of Europe in the future. For energy is much more volume of renewable energy. So what do we need? We simply need that all governments are instructing their civil servant, their offices, to accelerate the instruction of the authorization, all type of authorization. We are not trying to overpass, as renewable energy provider, the rules. Biodiversity is essential. I'm not going to build a wind farm on a forest and destroy the trees or destroy species. No way. We are passionate by the nature, and we are pushing renewables since 20 years. No way we will do that. But we need that instruction of permitting to be faster. So sometimes the government says, okay, we don't have enough people to do it. This is true. This is true because they were instructing few files per year in the past. They have to instruct, they have to authorize thousands of gigawatt in the future. They need more forces. So what they need to do is to organize themselves, that take probably external resources, but we need to accelerate. And now it's urgent. And they will not be able to say we didn't know what to do. We know what to do. Acceleration of instruction. And in the meantime, private company like us, we organize ourselves to order the panels, to start the financing. And at some point we meet, but we don't meet in 2 years or 3 years' time. We meet in 6 months or in a year, because we really need desperately to increase the proportion of renewable energy. So the first thing government should do is to be sure that their services are delivering. So let's put some objective, monthly meeting. Where are we? What are the figures in 6 months? Okay, let's, like we are doing in the companies. Okay, what are the figures? Where do we stand on storage? And then I'm telling you, it's going to be accelerating. So I have a good signal to share with you. 2 days ago in France, it's not because I'm French, because I'm telling you, I know it's very difficult in our countries. It takes time. It takes years to get authorization, years. So we are probably one of the best examples of how long it could be to get authorized for renewable energy. The Minister of Interior sent a letter to all the préfets, they are the local authority for every single department in France, sent a letter saying that they have now the responsibility to accelerate, to be sure that their services, they are delivering quicker than before, and they are not spending too much time on some authorization that should not take that much time. So it's a great signal. And if we are going in that direction, I'm telling you, that's part of the solution.
Great. Thank you. That sounded like you didn't want any particular additional support. Perhaps, Pierre, do you want to comment on, because I think one of the ideas that the Commission is certainly focusing on is how to capture some of the, if you like, the lower costs of renewables. Any thoughts about whether that's important even?
Yeah, I think renewable used to have very high profit, but that was 20 years ago when we knew the market. It does not exist anymore. So what companies and investor and integrated energy companies are looking for is a fair return. And the fair return is very close to the LCOE of the technology. So the levelized cost of electricity, it means how much a kilowatt hour of solar or wind costs to produce. And then based on that, we offer a price in order to cover the equipment and the cost of financing and the fair return. So we used to think that the renewable are expensive because they were subsidized, but actually with the decrease of the technology, LCOE dropped significantly. And today, renewables energy are the most competitive sources of electricity, way cheaper than any other sources. So what I think needs to be done is not to force investor to go in one way or another. And I think it's completely fair to capture that LCOE, the cost of renewable is lower. What I would encourage, and that's what is going on, is to have different route to market. I was speaking about the private contract, the public contract that are lasting for 20 years, very low risk. Is that's where the developer and the investor have basically nearly zero margin. We put everything to squeeze the financial cost, the capex that we optimize, and this is where you can find the lowest cost. Private contract to decarbonize the industry. Private customer are able to capture and to contract directly one-to-one in order to with the developer, with an operator, in order to benefit from a low cost of electricity because the source comes from renewables. So today we are speaking about market prices. I think in Greece, very recently it was 650, the wholesale market. We are comparing the 650 of the wholesale market with the LCOE, so a cost of electricity of renewable that ranges depending from region in Europe or irradiation and wind, around 40 to 65, 70, maybe that the cost. So it has nothing to do. The competitiveness of renewables is here. We see countries like Germany, like UK implementing policies that give different opportunities and that drives costs really low. Thanks to PPA, thanks to merchant possibilities, depending on the risk profile, and that's understandable. So that's my, so I agree that the super profit from the renewables is a tricky question currently, but with the proper tools, corporate PPA or long-term contract, we can pass the benefit of the technology, the cheap technology, to the consumer, whether it's a private household or whether it's an industrial consumer.
Before to be taxed on super profit on renewable, my dream is to start to do profit. Because what you have to understand is that we don't do any profit. What we do is we are reinvesting all the time because we are so late. So we don't do profit. So I don't know how they will tax super profit, because if you look at our balance sheet, we don't make any profit. We didn't pay any dividend in the last 15 years in the company. So we are far away from that. Corporate PPA, very important. Another good signal. 3 years ago, we were calling the companies all over Europe, pushing them to sign medium, long-term agreement with a fixed price, with a kind of inflation with us. And you know, the buyers in the company, they were saying, no, you're too expensive. You're too expensive, 60 euro, forget it, you know, you're too expensive, we don't want. Imagine next year is gonna be 30 euro, I'm gonna lose a lot of money, I'm gonna lose my job. We were explaining to them that it was not going in that direction and that it is fair to share. So we were just asking, as you said, to make a little bit of profit, to be able to finance our project in the future. No one wanted to hear that in Europe. Today, I'm telling you, we're not answering the phone. We are not answering the phone. Every day there is 10 companies calling, Eric, what can we do? Can we sign a 10 years, 15 years? Okay, I agree, 20 years. So that's the opposite. So we're not gonna take advantage of that. I'm telling you, what is the most important when you reach that is stability. Stability, visibility on prices. Why? Because we're trying to implement and to build an infrastructure. An infrastructure needs time, needs stability. So there is no way we will make super profits. I tell you, what is important is to create a new energy system based on renewable, reliable, affordable. And I'm telling you, it's now.
Thanks, Eric. Konstantinos, any perspectives from your side on types of PPA? You must have lots of experience with corporate PPAs.
First of all, just to comment on that, my personal view is that having a free market is the best option. Unfortunately, it's not something that we can have today. We have to have subsidies. We have to increase the price that technologies are taking in order to do all these projects today, because we need them today and not in 10 years' time. Corporate PPAs are not something that was invented this year or last year or during the war in Ukraine. They were created some decades ago, and they were just to have a cash flow hedging or a hedging. It was a hedging mechanism in order to not to have the volatility. Now everybody wants PPAs because they want to save money, because they are paying 250 euros per megawatt hour. Maybe this is a small number that I am now mentioning, and they want to go back to 60. The ideal would be to ask for a PPA even before reaching 60 or 70 euros per megawatt hour. But this is the issue that the gentleman just mentioned, that they were not coming, the corporates were not coming before, but they are coming now. It is an issue. It is a way out. We can, through corporate PPAs, we can have lower prices, especially for medium voltage and high voltage, because you have to have a critical mass in order to go for a PPA. However, we have also to pay attention also to all the clauses, because it's a 10-year agreement. We have to pay attention to all the clauses, the default mechanisms, the price mechanism. We have to pay attention to all these. And we have to be very careful also from a regulation perspective, because at the end of the day, putting caps on prices and having these caps also for PPAs, it creates an issue. because if the cap is low, then it means nothing for the counterparty. If the cap is high, then you have other issues. We have to pay attention to PPAs. It is a way out, I think. We see them also in Greece over the last years, especially the last year, to have a bigger penetration in the market. Everybody is seeking for a PPA, but we have to take some cautious steps in order to have this, to have a solid market, to have a market that is going to be based on PPAs, but is going to be solid also after 10 or 15 years.
I fully agree with you, but I will add something which is important. Is as a provider of green energy, we are absolutely not scared about any default of our customers in the 10 coming years. Why? Because we have a structural deficit in terms of volume. So if one of my customer, which I've signed a PPA with, is in default in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, we know that by nature, we'll find a way out for our green energy and potentially at a higher price. So of course, we are very cautious because we do non-recourse project finance. So we have to give all the guarantee to the bank. So everything is secure. But more globally, on a macroeconomic way, we are not scared. We are not scared about our future because unfortunately we are late. When you see the new target, 45%, 2030, that's great. I love the target. Be sure that we're gonna work hard to meet the target, but I'm telling you, it's too late. It's going too slow. So we cannot. Simply we cannot. We cannot because we need the panel from China. You know, there is a discussion about forced labor. No one in this room is for forced labor. We all concerned about forced labor. So we have to be careful and to address this subject. But be careful before to take any political decision to not play against our situation in Europe, because we cannot replace, even if we want to have a new capacity installed to manufacture solar panel in Europe, which is something we all wish. It will take time. And in the meantime, if we want to continue and to meet the target, we cannot afford to lose China as a provider for the panels.
Okay. I'm conscious.
On turbines.
Conscious we need to wrap up. So I'm gonna ask one last question about the European Union and how the European Union can support the energy transition. Have you got, and as I'm going to ask you each for a sort of message at the European level about how the European Union can best support renewables. I remember an old idea which was, oh, why don't we have a single European market for renewable procurement? A Bain study said in 2015 this would have saved 100 billion euros by locating more solar in Spain and Greece and more wind in the north of Europe and getting customers around Europe to pay for it rather than locating the solar panels in Germany and the wind in Spain, which was not the most efficient thing to happen. So any messages for the European Union? Pierre, do you want to start with that?
I think what I would start from volume, and we already saw that. So in the last months, France, UK, Germany, and other countries in Europe significantly increased their volume. So based on that, there is more delivery at a local level. So that's a volume effect. Then Eric was mentioning about the cooperation. I think that the country need to cooperate more and to exchange on technology, but also on energy. So interconnection will stabilize the network and will diversify the sources. You were speaking about the wind in the North Sea that can be balanced by a low availability sun from the southern country. So a European Union should stick together and cooperate further, and to have a homogeneous rule, which is already the case. On the last point is a supply chain. I think it's very important. There is no energy transition without equipment, a panel from China. The battery cell, they come also mainly from China. But many parts of the turbines are also coming on a massive supply from there. So we need the European Union need to think about securing the supply chain at a more regional level. We see also that today the dependency from the gas from Russia. We could draw somehow a parallel from the high dependency from equipment that come from outside the European Union. So that's something that the three elements that I would like to point in order to strengthen at a European level the energy security.
Thanks, Pierre. Konstantinos?
I would highlight the term fast. We have to be fast enough because if we are not fast enough, of course, everything that has been said, it's totally true, but we have to be fast enough because if we succeed on having all the renewables that we want in 10 years time, maybe we do not have corporates left in order to take the energy that we're going to produce, or maybe the European Union will not have the money in order to do anything else. So acting fast, acting as one is a critical factor. All the governments, they have to do something even better compared to what they are doing internally in their countries in order to cooperate and do all the implementations that we need to do faster. Maybe we are going to pay for some projects that they are not going to work on full capacity. But this is something that we have to accept. This is something that we will have to pay and continue with all these projects because we need to have all these implemented now.
Thank you, Eric. Last word for you.
Thank you. I think what's going to be important is, of course, we need to play all together, global in Europe. But since we are in an emergency energy situation, what will be useful in the coming months is to give some flexibility to the member states to the way to implement the increase of renewable energy into the grid, because none of the states, not all the countries are at the same stage in terms of renewable energy penetration. So I'll give you one example. Sometimes there is some member states that are asking for a strategic investment status. What does it mean? It means that there is a negotiation between bilateral negotiation between the states and the company, and they found a way to do it quickly. So they get that status. European Commission doesn't like that. They like tenders, they like competition. That is great, but tenders, competition works in a certain type of peaceful market. But right now, it's urgent to recover our independence for good, to show that geopolitically talking, we will not need to be dependent from external countries. So I think this flexibility, some member states deserve some flexibility to implement their short-term framework agreement, legal framework plan. And when everything will be stabilized, maybe we will come back to tenders, but there is probably some flexibility to implement. That's my guess.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all the panel, and perhaps you join me in thanking them.